commission met with concerns on Lincoln Park Manor. The man in the green is a stranger in this community. Is Bob Siebel, who came from Colorado as a consultant for us as we looked at what at Lincoln Park Manor. I think the first thing, probably the most important thing that Bob said after he looked at the financials and he toured the building, that it is a very viable business. That he feels that with oversight we can make it at least a break-even operating facility, which is good news. Presently, it is leased to the Grace team, and we did meet with them and talked about financials. At the end of that discussion, we asked them to write down some proposals that we could look at, which we received last night by email, and the committee this morning met, and we looked at those proposals. We are still analyzing those, and we have some questions for the Grace team on those as we continue to work on the specific details of possibly establishing a board, a nonprofit board, to oversee the nursing home. We had talked to, it's called Redbud in Rooks County out of Plainville, Kansas. They have a rest home very similar to ours, bed-wise. It's been operating as a nonprofit with some county support. We probably need to visit with them a little bit more about the details. We just received this morning the management agreement they have with the county, as well as the bylaws of this nonprofit. I would say that Rooks County owns the building, and they are providing the major repairs such as water heaters, air conditioners, heaters, and things like that. Otherwise, unless the cash runs short, the commission doesn't provide any finance. In the last 18 months, Rooks County told us they probably pumped in about $100,000 and to keep the cash flow going. And the administrator told us that most of that was due to the fact of the big problems we have with Medicaid in the state of Kansas. CanCare is so slow at providing money to the homes that the cash flow becomes a problem for those homes. We also talked to KDADs in Topeka about licensing and what's required. We have several questions back to them that we want some more specific answers. We're doing a little research on our own on some of the things that they said. With that being said, I would hope that the commission would ask this group to continue to work in the next few weeks to possibly have a proposal for the nursing home and how we will move forward.
I think that the group has made some major gains there, strides, so I think it would only be right to continue as we have the last couple of weeks and do more fact finding and get us closer to the decision here.
Is there any questions from the audience? I may not answer them, but certainly to ask them if you would like to ask any concerns.
So is the Grace company working with you now as far as?
We are in conversations with them, yes we are. And that has to take place because they are running the facility. And yes, we are meeting with them. Met with them yesterday, and I assume we will probably meet with them in the near future. This group continues to be. As I said, we did see some proposals from them how to transition into that.
Have you established a milestone chart? Any deadlines that you have to meet or want to meet or try to meet?
The proposal or the proposals that they came are good until September the 24th.
How many many different proposals did they make? How many
2.
options?
There are presently 2 on the table. No.
Well, along the lines of telling you what they are, it's pretty much similar to what we've already heard in public meetings as far as the options for sale.
Are there any other questions?
How realistic do you think the financial plan is now?
Excuse me, Bob, what did you say?
How realistic now does the commission believe the financing plans to be?
Yeah.
Can I address that real quickly? Are you talking about going forward?
Going forward.
From this point forward? I will have to tell you, I think they're very realistic. You've got some good things going for you in terms of a Medicaid rate that is favorable and has significant upside room for improvement, and also a good private pay census, and I think the combination of those bodes very well. There clearly is some work to do. I mean, the overall census is lower than it, ideally should be. There's certainly some upside potential in the assisted living side, and so I think that there is. I really do believe at the present time, if you remove some of the things that Grace legitimately is charging under their agreement, the facility's essentially breaking even. So, and that's without any of these upside potentials. And should be cash flow at least neutral, the way it is now. Again, with the sole exception of what you mentioned, Joe, of the horrible mess of Medicaid and getting people approved for Medicaid that is slowing everything down. And that's statewide. I mean, that's a statewide problem. Does that help? I mean, does that?
And what about the deficit to date?
Well, that's part of the negotiation, obviously. So, I mean, I'm not sure, but clearly, it's one of the items that has to be addressed, but that's the responsibility of the corporate entity that's currently operating it.
Was anyone at the public town hall that's here? No. Well, if you want to watch it, the public town hall is videotaped, and it was disclosed what the purchase price was in that public meeting. And we're not looking at anywhere near that. So I would just like to express my sadness and just frustration with seeing that type of manipulation and attempt to make a profit on people who are needing care at the end stages of their life. But if you want that information, it's been videoed and uploaded to Lincoln Post-Rock Open Meetings. Excuse me.
So am I hearing that we're really far apart from Grace's team? So the 24th of September probably is not gonna have anything resolved by then.
It's possible. It's possible we will.
Did Grace team indicate a plan if it wasn't met by the 24th?
The proposal they had is all we have. They said by the 24th, no, that we have.
I think the numbers could change, I guess, if it's not done by the 24th, because I would assume there would be more expense involved. I don't think that date is we're gonna do some drastic date.
Nor do I think there's any indication, or should there be any word out, that home is closing. That rumor needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped now. That home is not going to close. I don't think these 3 commissioners will allow it to happen.
I think one of the best things that you can take away from this, because I know we're not giving you a lot of information, explanation, because the details are all in the numbers. We all know that through the brain. But one of the best things you can take away from this is that the committee that has done the investigation thus far, that was appointed, has basically reversed all of the ideological things that were presented to us last year, as far as the home can't make money and it can't stand on its own, and it's, you know, it's basically in a poor and sad way. That's not necessarily true. As we all know, propaganda gets put out there so that there are pressures to make certain decisions, and it ultimately comes down to the dollar. And so just on the positive side of things, I think what's been disclosed is that those things that we were told last year and that kept coming up and about, and like he said about talking about closing and those kinds of, I would say manipulative topics are finally laid to rest. We know that it's a viable business, that it can almost break even. And it would be up to the public to support a subsidy there to some extent going into the future as far as how the operation is going to proceed.
That there's no way or no benefit to cancel his contract?
I think that our lease was less than desirable, and it didn't protect us. That's my personal opinion. We haven't sought external legal advice. I would assume that we should do that. If you read back in the newspaper from when we did sign the lease, my dissent was based on the fact that I didn't feel that it protected the county. So we're kind of sitting in that quandary momentarily.
Is there anything we can do, Aldo, you said we are not closing the nursing home, to get that word out a little better, because that is really having a negative impact
I
on
know
our
it has,
facility.
I know it has, and rumors are very hard to stop.
Right.
But we all have to remember that we have to stay positive.
Well, can you commissioners as a group write a letter to the editor or something to that fact that people can read that in the paper?
We can to a certain extent that we're not the licensee.
Well, I realize that, but that'd be a start.
Yes, I believe I understand what you're saying. I think the public relationship has been poor, the PR.
Yep.
Well, just personally, I've been contacted by other agencies in other counties that are trying to make some decisions, their boards, and they are, I don't wanna say they're waiting on our decision, but their decisions kind of are iffy based on what is gonna happen at the nursing home here. So,
Could you elaborate maybe on what type of boards?
hospital boards, different nursing home boards, do they wanna go all private rooms? Or if Lincoln closes, do they need, double rooms? I mean, things like that are in that they're trying to work out. They're kind of leery if Lincoln would close, that they would need more room. So, I'm like, I'm not, and all I can tell them is I have no say, and that I don't think the commissioners do intend to let it close ever. But I have no, I can't tell them that for a fact.
Well, for several years, we've been led to believe that there's this financial deterioration happening out there, which our committee has now found to not be true. So that's what we can at least express, is that there is some solidarity there financially. You're shaking your head no. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I'm shaking my head, because I can.
Anybody else got any questions?
You have 2 weeks. What is your next step to get from here to the end of the next 2 weeks?
I assume we will the committee will meet probably within the next week, possibly if we get some answers for some questions that we have. I mean, we can't we can't do anything until we get that part answered, and then we can make some recommendations, I guess, to the commission.
They're still